Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one. I'm Nick, and today I'm taking a look at A Quiet Place 2, released in 2021 after several delays before due to the pandemic. If you've been following my channel, you'd know that I've already put out A Quiet Place 1 review not too long ago, so I figured I would jump on part 2 as soon as possible. Before I get into it though, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, it does help me out a whole lot, guys. Helps the channel grow. And if you're feeling even more generous, you can go ahead and buy me a coffee. Link to that will be in the description, as well as my letterbox. But without further ado, let's get into this. A Quiet Place 2 was released in 2021. It stars Emily Blunt, Melissa Simmons, Cillian Murphy, and Noah Jupe, and was directed by John Krasinski again. So yeah, guys, I was anticipating this film for a while. I just never got around to watching it. Part 1 was very solid. And only thing I heard about this film was that it's even better. And everybody's like, yeah, they took it a step even further. So I was excited to see it. Do I agree? Not so much. I do prefer the first film over this one, guys. And I'll get into why. But this is not a bad film either. But yeah, let's dive into what makes this movie. So the plot of this one is basically following the events of part 1, like right after. We continue with the Abbott family as they move away from their home and journey off into the open wild where we don't know what they are going to face next. We thought it was bad when they were at their own location, at their own house where they knew everything, their farmhouse, but now they're gone off into the terrors of the outside world where anything could happen, right? Right off the bat, I just want to say I like how this film gave us that little backstory on how these creatures came about, because we didn't get any of that in the first film. We were just thrown into the apocalypse. While this one shows you how day one started, how everything broke out. And I think they did a really good job with that, and it was a cool way to bring back John Krasinski for a little bit in this film. And really, when we see the family and all the community, we notice that they're a little different than what we've seen in part 1. We get to see how they were before this apocalypse started. And yeah, they still had some of the same values. Obviously, they're still the same people, but your mentality in that changes after you end up in a situation like this. So it was cool to see them before. And really the journey that the family goes on once we do get back to the present day is so much more dangerous than in part 1. In part 1, they're at their own location, you know, their farmhouse or whatever. They were in defense mode all the time. You can't really be in defense mode when you're on the run in random places you've never been before, not knowing if a creature's around the corner or a killer, you know, because people are essentially just as bad as the creatures. It's basically like The Walking Dead. Take out the zombies and add in the creatures, same thing. And as you know, that show, after a few seasons, it was the people that were the biggest threat, not the zombies. Dealing with humans in the unknown can be just as deadly, but not to take anything away from the creatures. They're just as threatening as they were in the first film. They don't change too much about them. They pretty much look kind of the same. And yeah, they're just as ferocious. But at least the Abbott family do know how to defeat them, or at least weaken them with the sound after part 1. So they have a little bit of an advantage. And I just want to say this film continues the great cinematography that the last film presented. Everything looks great. The technical aspects of this film are on a high level. Whether you're talking about the visuals, the sound design is great as well. Of course, we need that in a movie about creatures that go by sound, right? So they did an excellent job with all the technical aspects. Again, we get great performances all around, maybe even better than the original, who knows. They get a lot more to chew on because they're talking more and everything. There's situations where they're able to speak a lot more in this film than in the previous film. And with the dad not being there, John Krasinski, the rest of the characters seem to be a little bit more fleshed out in their own ways. They give them a little bit more to chew on. Whether we're talking about the mom who has to deal with parenting on her own now, and how she pretty much had to step up and be the mom and the dad, or whether you're talking about the deaf daughter, how she's coping with the loss of her father and what she went through at the end of part 1. The son obviously has a much more of a presence in this film. He didn't get too much in the first film at all. I felt like he was really taking a back seat, while in this film I feel like he has a little bit more to deal with, and yeah, we just get to spend more time with him. And while the film still has a lot of scenes of tension and stuff building up throughout, just like the first one, I feel like they don't do as good a job in that respect. There's still a few nail-biting scenes, whether we're talking about like the train scene or whatever, but nothing amounts to the birthing scene in the OG. I feel like they hit the very top of what they could do with that, and nothing in this film really amounts to that. So I've never felt like on the edge of my seat like I did in the OG. I also found myself not as engaged or as interested with what's going on in this film as I did in the first one. Like, it just wasn't as interesting to me. It played out way too much like a TV series. I feel like this would have been the perfect two-part episode to a TV series, like the starting of an apocalypse show, where yeah, this hour and a half or whatever would have been part one, episode one, and episode two would have made a great big pilot. But as a movie, I just feel like not enough happened. It's like we really go from point A to point B, and then the movie kind of ends. Where you could say the first film took all place in one location, but I feel like the story worked a lot better with that one. This one, yeah, I just couldn't get invested in the story. I was invested in the characters, but not so much what was happening to them. Especially near the climax of the film, I felt like this was going to be an epic ending, and I kind of felt like it was just mediocre at best. And they kind of pulled the same tricks out that they did in the first film, where it's like, you're not going to try something new? And the one thing they do try new with the monsters, like another weakness that they got, I found was so cheap and like so like lazy screenwriting, like to come up with that. I'm like, wow. So honestly, I just felt like the plot and the script could have been tightened up a little bit better. But that's just me. Apparently I'm in the minority. Most people really gush over this film and love it from what I see on the internet, but that might have been another reason why it didn't hit me as hard, because I had so much hype going for it, and it was so, like, everybody was talking it up so much, but when I watched it, it felt so underwhelming to me. Don't twist my words, guys. This is not a bad film at all. It's just when you're comparing it to part one, I found it was a lot weaker. And if I'm going to have to go ahead and give it a rating, I'll do it right now. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. It's a good horror movie. I don't think it's a great horror movie, but it was definitely worth a watch. And I don't know how often I'll be going back to this one, but it was an okay sequel to part one. So there you have it, guys. That was my review on A Quiet Place 2. I know not a lot of people are going to agree with me. I feel like I'm in the minority for this one, but I'm not going to come up with something fake for you guys. I'm giving you the truth and what I really feel. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you liked the video, like I said, you can give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Helps me a lot. You can drop down below in the comments what you thought of this film. Did you like it, or were you more like me, where it was just like mediocre to you? And that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching.